Okay, I am being sneaky right now on chess.com, and I am going to jump into a game and kibitz a little bit between these guys. We have Chess1357 versus FMJA Torres. How do you even make sense of this? What is the material count? Okay. Bishop pair versus, okay, forget about the bishop pair. What's the material count? 4, 5, 6. White is up a pawn and is going to drop this, but white still has the better pawn structure. 2 pawn islands. I do like this move. Just getting this guy rolling a step closer. This is a 3-2 majority. C4 is locking down on this D5 square. So what is the plan of action right here? I'm anticipating that at least one pair of rooks are going to be off the board. This E file is certainly going to have to be contested. Bishop D3 seems like the most natural square for this bishop. And then this guy right here is probably going to need to be removed in order for white to make progress. So how is that accomplished? Something like rook E1, rook H to F1 in pawn push. What else do you do? I guess you could improve the king position as white. This is a nice move to just stop any B4 idea. If white is going to try to get that in, it's not without allowing this rook activity along the A file. Time count, 2 minutes for white, 2:20 and change for black. And now a little bit of a minority attack going on here. We could see this advance, and there we go. Looking to create some target. So after this exchange, either one of these two squares, just to put pressure. I like the rook H8 just to prevent this rook from getting active. And if I'm to prefer a side, I think I'm liking black right here. Just because black has targets. You got this A2 pawn, this G3 pawn that constantly need babysitters. And here we go, that F5 advance. So the bishop is needing to do something else. This rook can now get active. But is it worthwhile to just save this pawn? What do you do about this guy? Okay, another pawn. Take note of this position right here, and this pawn being fixed on a dark square. If it simplifies a bit too much, then what are we going to have? We're going to have a case of a good versus bad bishop type of ending. So how to make progress? I keep thinking that this king should maybe bump up here, maybe trying to provoke this, and then the D5 square becomes a hole, but a lot of activity right here. How does white even get at these pawns? I guess rook here? How do you defend against this pawn? The rook is maybe looking to give check. This could be very annoying. Easy to go wrong right here for white. You got rook G1, rook C1 checks. How do you defend against all these things? I think the main one right here is just giving a check maybe. Chasing this king to a very awkward square. It might be even getting mated. Rook C1 if the king bumps up, pawn push, and maybe king C7 followed by bishop C6. Trying to eliminate one of these rooks right now is white, and now just a very good choice right here. This is a passive rook. The black rook's being more active. Keep the rooks on the board. Avoid the exchange. Place the bishop in a pin. King C7 watches over D6, and now what do you do about this guy right here? Uh-oh. Are the tables turning? The rook is hit. The rook is trapped. Bishop C6 is actually an illegal move. So quit your laughing right there. Bishop C6 is not allowed. We got a pin right here. And, well, now there's maybe, if the rook goes after this pawn, might there then be bishop to C6? Very awkward. Both bishops right here being pinned. My guess is, rook to G1 just to pick up this pawn. What do you do here? Oh, you give a check. Okay, you give a check and then you bump over to G1. Okay, I like that idea. Displace the king first and only then make use of G1. That was a nice in-between move right there. Trying to get the most out of the position. Now this game is over. No, I thought rook G2 first, rook here, and then rook here. But actually after rook G2, rook to E7 would have been a necessity. So still a little bit awkward here for white, but seems to just barely be stringing everything together. Very serious time deficit for white. This pawn is going to fall, but maybe this one is going to fall in the meantime. I think that's what we might have, but bear in mind, as soon as this goes, now there's maybe more of a possibility for bishop takes on F5. We will soon see. Less than 20 seconds, not a lot of time for white to figure it all out, and constantly having to watch out for bishop C6. White is always going to need to make this rook f7 move in response to bishop c6, but forget about it. This d6 pawn just dropped. White is now the side that's doing better, but on the clock, that is a different story. Let's see how this plays out. Clearly, we're going to have a little bit of a rat race here and a bunch of checks or not. Another pawn is grabbed and less than 10 seconds. Does White have a fast mouse? Mr. Chess 1357. Bishop is threatened. You got checks and everything. What's the story here? Rook right here. Mate threat hitting the bishop, and right here. This is close to lights out. Is Black going to try to burn the time here? Mate and one threat, and the bishop. The king might start to run for the hills. Here we go, time burners. Less than 5 seconds for White. And hopefully these guys play one more. Check, the king is running for the hills. Just get this pawn before it's too late. At least secure yourself a draw right here. Go after this pawn. 0.6 seconds. You got to get this pawn on A. Oh, Black won that one. All right, let's see. Let's see. They're going to play one more. Let's catch this right from the start here. So D4, C5, the Benoni. And now what do we have? Okay, we're going to have a tempo gainer on the queen, and she just runs back home. So D5 is going to be a critical point. These guys are rattling things off. They've been going at it. This is at least their 7th game in a row right here. And, okay, well, what do we do? D5, this knight is going to be taking up residence on D5 at some point. This bishop can be very annoying. And with ensuing pressure on C4, it may induce B3. And now going for some structural damage at the cost of giving up the bishop pair and a very important key defender of an eventual kingside position, these dark squares. That is a tough one to deal with. Now the rook and bishop is hit. Knight here is forced. Defends the bishop and the rook. But what do we do next? Now this pawn is hit. Do you have to resort to strictly defensive moves like knight to D2? Or just grab a pawn on A? So the position is way opened up. I do like the white side, even if this guy drops, because how do you complete? This is a very good move. Bishop H6. How do you complete the development here for Black? Black, I think, should be looking for what? What would you want to do here in such a position? Get the queens off the board, and then somehow maybe take up residence right here with the king on D7, just castle artificially. So apparently looking to now reroute this bishop to C6 to maybe negate this light square bishop's presence. And what does Black do about this bishop? Oh, also another thing. Okay, two things. Bishop C6 and also knight G4 to kick this bishop from its strong post on H6. In the meantime, the rook is getting hit. This might turn out to be a poison pawn, because now these rooks can become active. With the taking of this pawn, now the c-file becomes open, and this knight is a monster. Oh, man, he's hitting everything. Rook, pawn, on D, F6, you name it. Bad things are going to happen. Soon, very soon, are they not? Queen right here, I think maybe there was possibilities for... No, I was thinking maybe queen b6, getting the queens off the board, but not the case. Pawn push, hitting the knight and defending against f6. These guys both under 2 minutes. This pawn is hit 3 times, defended twice now. It could be taken. Once again, things are just pointing to this rook. The king needs still 2 moves before it's active, or before this rook is playing, I should say. King f8, king g7 is what Black wants. I guess you have to defend the bishop. Pick your favorite way. E4 or rook d1. Okay, now devoting a piece to the defense of the bishop. If this queen gets out of the pin, the bishop is in some sense just boxing out this knight. And now we have Black having some good coordination. And these doubled pawns right here act as a really good defensive barrier against queen checks. There's no rank checks, there's no diagonal checks, there's no file checks, just from these group of 3 pawns. So keep that in mind. These guys right here being very good. And now with this pawn push, looking to open up a diagonal, it could be defended. And now if there's a queen exchange, you recapture with the king. This is an endgame. Get the king active. And now it's Black who's looking to just get all their pieces working. Finally, that rook is contributing in some way. What do you do now? You go after this weak link. If these guys are exchanged off the board, okay, this is likely a draw right here. But who's maybe the better side? Okay, we have a slight time advantage here for Black, and if the pawns are on one side of the board, it's that tricky knight that could maybe become the difference in many instances. But if we're going to have this exchange, I think we're going to end up having a dead draw here. These guys are just going to end up in a draw. What are we going to have? No, a draw was offered by White, and it was declined. So these guys are really going to slug it out here. We're going to see a rat race right here. What are we at? Yeah, are they just going to go back and forth? Come on, guys. You know you want to agree to a draw. Back and forth. Repetition coming up. There it is. Okay. It's been a while since I did one of these Kibitzing games. These guys are still going to go at it, but I am going to stop right now. So, as always, I hope you got something out of this video. Take care.